Everyone, welcome to another episode of Table Talk. I'm your host, Jake Combs, and tonight we have some new 40k items to share with you guys. Now, each of these items were sent to us for the purpose of our review by Games Workshop. And one thing just to be aware of, at the time of this video being released, these items will be available for pre-order with the exception of the Tempest of War mission pack, which that is actually available for sale as of today. This was also sent ahead of time, but I did not want to do a video only on the mission pack by itself. So wrap that into our total 40k video today so we can include it and go over everything. So we do have the new Tyranid Codex as well as the Parasite of Mortrex, and then we also have the data cards for the Tyranids, and then, like I mentioned, the mission pack for Tempest of War. So let's go ahead and get started. All right. So since this one is officially released as of today, we'll go ahead and start with that mission pack. Now, right off the back, I do really like the case itself for the pack. I mean, it seems to have a very well design. The lid just slides into place real easily, but stays very, it's very sturdy, stays in place very easily. So definitely a great way to store the cards. And then so in here, we actually have 3 tokens, where on one side we have the skull and the other side we have this kind of vortex looking thing. Not quite certain what those are for. Let me see if it says anything on the back. Let's see. So they are meant as objective markers, and so it's basically designed to be a way to be a quick kind of pick up and play. Like, you just grab the mission pack, you draw a mission at random. And specifically for Tempest of War games, you first select your battle size and muster armies. So however many points it is. And then once you've done that, you determine your mission. So that's basically just going through the deck and drawing the mission. You read the mission briefing, which is going to be just the details underneath the mission itself. And then so in here there are 2 secondary mission decks as well as the primary mission that you can draw from. And so specifically, one is for the attacker, one is for the defender. So looking at it, I'm guessing the ones that are for the attacker are going to be the ones in red. Typically red is meant to be more hostile. And these ones that are kind of a bluish gray would be the defender. And then the ones that are in green are the primary objectives. Oops, skipped over some of them. Not a lot of those in here. So those are the primary objectives. Then we also have this other set that is our mission rule. So you can have some various mission rules in place. The special deployment. And then a core stratagem or strategic ploy for the attacker and defender. So we'll look at a couple of those specifically. But after you you assign the cards, you create your battlefield, you place your objective markers, you determine who's the attacker and who's the defender, choose the deployment zone, and then declare reserves and transports. Lastly, deploy armies. And then once you determine first turn, you resolve pre-battle abilities, begin the battle, end the battle, and then determine the victor. Now, in the rulebook for this, it does have a handy key in the back. So it looks like the Alright, so it doesn't actually define which one is the attacker defender. I'm guessing the basics of the card itself will tell you which one it is. But I am pretty sure that the red is going to be the attacker. So let's go ahead and take a look at a card from each one, just drawn completely randomly. So this one is a secondary mission for behind enemy lines. This is for what I believe is the defender. So it's achieved at the end of your turn if 2 or more units, excluding aircraft units, are wholly within your opponent's deployment zone. And if you only have 1 unit remaining in your army, then this secondary mission is instead achieved at the end of your turn if that unit is wholly within your opponent's deployment zone. But if it's only the 1 unit instead of 2 in that scenario, then you only get 2 victory points instead of 5. And then let's draw one at random for the attackers. So this is Area Denial, also secondary mission. So the secondary mission is achieved at the end of your turn if you have 1 or more units from your army wholly within a certain range of the center of the battlefield, and there are no enemy units within the same range of the center of the battlefield. It depends on the battle size. So if it's a 1,000-point army battle, it's 9 inches. If it's 2,000 points, then it's 12. Ah, crap. Sorry about that. My cat decided to bump the camera. All right, there we go. And then it cannot be achieved during the first battle round, and if you generate this during the first battle round, generate a new mission and shuffle this one back into the secondary mission deck. So now, pulling a primary mission. So this one's direct assault. In the second, third, and fourth battle rounds, at the end of each player's command phase, the player whose turn it is scores 4 victory points for controlling 1 or more objective markers, control 2 or more, and control more objective markers than their opponent controls. So, I mean, just the wording of that, it sounds like that if you have all 3 of them, it's 4 victory points for each one of those that you have. That doesn't sound like that should be right. But in the 5th battle round, the player who has the first turn scores 4 victory points at the end of their command phase for each of the above conditions that they satisfy. So that one actually does specify all 3 of those. And then the player who has the second turn scores 4 victory points at the end for each of those that they satisfy. And then in every battle round, at the end of each player's turn, the player whose turn it is scores 2 victory points if they satisfy one of the following, or 3 if they satisfy both of them. So they control at least 1 objective marker that they did not control at the start of the turn, destroyed at least 1 enemy unit that was in range of an objective marker at the start of their turn. So basically doing that one is a real easy way to score a lot of points rather quickly. Well, not really rather quickly, but without having to do anything very special. So just a random mission rule is Vox static. In this mission, the command reroll stratagem costs 2 command points to use. So these are basically kind of like little twists to the actual mission itself. I'm not going to really bother going over the deployments because those are basically just images and no real description to read. And then we only have 2 of the core stratagems. So we're just going to go ahead and read one of them. This one is 1 command point. You use this at the end of your command phase. Select one of your active secondary missions and discard it. Generate 1 new secondary mission. So basically if you have a secondary mission that's more or less going to be impossible, it's going to be perfect to use that one in order to remove that one from play, so that way you can draw a new one and then have a better chance at scoring more victory points. So definitely a cool thing to have, especially if you're going to be playing a lot of battles with different people, so you want to keep the games fresh. And so, like it says on the back, that there are over 1,000 different combinations that you can have using all the different types of cards to influence the actual game itself. All right, so next we're going to go ahead and open up the data cards. Now this is the second time I've ever received data cards for an army. And my memory is that these are more or less just the stats for individual units, if I remember correctly. And no, my memory is completely wrong. All right, so we have core stratagems, battle tactic stratagems, epic deed stratagems, requisition stratagem, strategic ploy stratagem, war gear stratagem, behemoth psychic power, kraken psychic power, leviathan psychic power, gorgon psychic power. So these are basically psychic powers that are specific to the different army configurations that you can have. Kronos, Hydra, behemoth battle tactics. So we have individual battle tactics for the different army types. Then we have psychic power, hive mind discipline, hive tyrant, broodlord, Tyranid prime. So some of the specific units that you might have, there are cards in here for specific rules for them, and so having these cards will definitely make it easier to remember those rules without having the full codex open to their rules. If you have the actual stats for those units. And then it even includes the new Parasite of Mortrex in there. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Codex. Now, in all of the years that I've played 40k, the Tyranids have been by far one of my absolute favorites. One of the very first models I ever painted for 40k was the original Hive Tyrant, and I would love to get my hands on one of the newer versions. The models are just freaking awesome. I love just the general look of them. I mean, they look, straight out of like something that H.R. Geiger had created. Very inspired by the Alien movies, or vice versa. I don't remember the actual timeline of what was released first, but my memory is that Tyranids came out after Alien did, and H.R. Geiger's works, and that whoever created the Tyranids originally was heavily inspired by those works. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but that is what I've read. But as we all know, not everything you read on the internet is correct or accurate. So with the Tyranids, you have different hive fleets. So the different hives, like we saw in the data cards, there are specific stratagems, specific powers, effects that those different hive fleets can bring. And so this book basically allows you to go through and choose which one is best suited to your playstyle or for your tactics. So just skimming through, we have up until page 48. 48 is where the rules actually start. Before that, that is all background fluff, lore, whatever you want to call it, for the Tyranids. And then so we go into the overall rules, starting with combat patrol and detachment abilities, specifically under Battleforged Rules. Under the Hive Fleets, so these are specific rules for each Hive Fleet. So like we have Behemoth. So the swarms of Hive Fleet, Behemoth rampage into their prey in a stampede of hulking muscle, crushing chitin and trampling hooves. They embody the most unsettled aspects of predatory aggression and uncontrollable hunger. So basically, just on that description, you're more or less going to be using kind of like a swarm mentality, or like big monsters that are geared more for close combat, at least based on that description, and just kind of overwhelming force. Kraken, to do battle with the swarms of Hive Fleet Kraken is to pit oneself against a sly predatory gestalt whose every instinct and action is calculated towards outmaneuvering and encircling its prey. The Kraken's broods spring from unexpected quarters. They surge through the slightest gap in their enemy's defenses and exploit even the smallest weakness with rapacious savagery. So with Kraken, they're more subtle. They're going to be kind of sneaking around using stealth tactics to get to where they are trying to get and cause the most carnage. But so far, we're only 2 Hive Fleets in, and it really sounds like if Tyranids could more or less bring the different Hive Fleets together, work to all of their strengths, and have all of them basically work together and send kind of like a mix of each army, kind of like how with Chaos Undivided, you can have Nurgle forces with Slaanesh, with Khorne, with Tzeentch, and have them work together in a cohesive force. So that way you're kind of getting the best of each world, but you're also you're not taking full advantage of each group's abilities doing that. So I can understand from a player perspective why you wouldn't do that, but if the Tyranids could combine these Hive Fleets into one cohesive force, they would essentially be unstoppable. At least that's my opinion based on watching battle reports, the previous rule sets, how they've played before. So definitely, if you couldn't tell, I love the Tyranid Force. They are by far one of my favorites. It's just when I first got into the hobby, had no kids, so I could get all the scary monsters and stuff that I wanted, and that didn't matter. Now that I have kids and I keep my stuff on display, I have to think about what I'm putting up and what kind of gets put into storage once it's done. And so that's kind of why I've avoided Tyranids with 8th and 9th edition so far, is just because of the fact that I have kids that are susceptible to nightmares, and so having these monsters out like this is something I try to avoid. So, like, by all means, I'm gonna paint and build them and play with them. It's just they're not as likely to have a permanent spot on my display shelf, just because of that general aesthetic and the age of my children. So going back to the Hive Fleets. So next we have Hive Fleet Leviathan. So pouring up through the galactic plane, they strike at their prey from one end of the galaxy to the other, honed by the trial and error carnage wrought by the Hive Fleets that came before them. So basically, Leviathan it sounds like they're more of the highly skilled fighters, the ones that have been around for a while, have more advanced tactics, things like that. Gorgon wears down its prey through use of adaptive hypertoxins, weaponized spore clouds, and corrosive poisons. Okay, so this one basically sounds like it's very Nurgle, which makes me kind of wonder, like, has there ever been a Nurgle based like Tyranid force that like somehow got corrupted? Like I don't think that there has been anything like that, at least not officially. I'm sure that some hobbyist out there's probably made like a Nurgle themed Tyranid army using Gorgon, and it's just with like that description of their main tactics, it sounds very Nurgle to me, just with the exception of they're not trying to control life. They're just more or less focused on just constantly feeding and moving on to the next planet. But I think that could be something that would be really cool, at least aesthetically, if somebody could actually put something like that together and have it work, especially in a story or like in one of the shows on Warhammer Plus. I think that would be something really, really eye-catching, something very different. So something that, like, now that I'm thinking about it, if I ever do start a full Tyranid army, I may just have to kind of mix and match some pieces to Nurgleize them a little bit more. And then, let's see, so we got 3 more Hive Fleets. Next one is Jormungandr. So it assails its enemies not only from orbit and across blazing battlefields, but also in horrific attack waves from beneath their feet. No other Hive fleet makes such prodigious use of tunneling organisms to completely honeycomb invading worlds with subterranean networks of Tyranid burrows from which attack swarms erupt. So, I mean, this one does have some stealth with it, but it's more of a kind of a spread and then appear like behind enemy lines type thing. So I think like using them based on that description sounds like it's going to kind of be the equivalent of like having a Space Marine drop ship drop troops behind enemy lines, where this one actually has them burrow up from behind. Then next one is Kronos, adapted to battle the otherworldly threat of demons spilling through warp space. The swarms of Hive Fleet Kronos are nonetheless utterly deadly to any prey that cross their path. Their warrior organisms instinctively do battle from long range upon both physical and metaphysical planes, reducing their victims to maggot-riddled, awful, and soul-blasted husks before devouring them ravenously. That is a great description. I really like how it's worded. I mean, it's got so much imagery just in the way they've written it. But so Kronos is specifically designed to hunt and fight the forces of chaos, more or less, specifically demons. So definitely, like, so far out of all of the ones that we've read, Kronos is probably the one that I would go with for just an actual play army. If I'm just doing like something for like display, then doing like what I was talking about with like a chaos theme or a Nurgle themed Tyranid fleet. Then the last one is Hydra. At first, the threat posed by swarms of Hive Fleet Hydra appears deceptively manageable, albeit still nightmarishly dangerous. Yet this Hive Fleet fights its battles through hyper-aggressive escalation, passing swiftly from infestation to overwhelming tide until its horrified victims are buried beneath the heaving mass of predatory organisms they have unwittingly drawn down upon themselves. So Hydra basically sounds like that they're doing more of a kind of like playing cat and mouse with their opponents, and kind of luring them into a trap, which then will kind of spring and overwhelm. And then we go into the Battleforged Rules, or actually we're still in the Battleforged Rules, but specifically Infinite Biomorphologies, where we have Splinter Fleet, and I really can't read tonight. And under Biomorphologies, we have Hunt, Lurk, and Feed. Then we go into our stratagems. And then our army rules themselves. Now, one thing I really like is, just the overall artwork. They do a fantastic job, but I love this scene of just like a lone guardsman just shooting at this massive Tyranid that's just come down on him. The guy literally has no hope of surviving, but he's doing everything he can to stop the threat. Then we go into Warlord traits, Hive Mind Discipline, Relics, and then Chapter Approved Rules. And then our Crusade rules. And then our data sheets. So starting that off, it has synaptic imperative abilities. We have the Winged Hive Tyrant and the regular Hive Tyrant and the Swarm Lord. Now my understanding is that all three of those can actually be built with the same kit. I haven't built one of this version, so I can't say for certain if that's true or not, but I have read that is the case. And then I believe, from what I've seen before, the only new model that we're going to find in here is the Parasite of Mortrex. And from what I've read, the Parasite of Mortrex, there actually was a planet called Mortrex that it was so effective fighting on that it basically was named after that planet. But beyond that, I don't remember much else about how it got its name. Let's see. So far, all of the ones that are listed in here are models or units that we've seen before. And then we go into weapon profiles, points, and then glossary and reference. So very cool book. I say it pretty much every time that we get a codex or a battle tome, that it's a great idea to pick battle tomes, even if it's an army that you're not playing. One, just so you can get the lore, because some of that lore is just fantastic to read. Very much worth your time. But in addition to that, if you know that you're going to be facing against these foes, getting a hold of the codex beforehand, reading, what abilities, what their point values, and knowing who you're going to be playing, you can kind of get an idea for what units are going to be best to fight against you, so that way you can better plan your army to fight against them. So now we're going through the Parasite of Mortrex itself. So of course we only have the one base. It is just a single sprue. Now one thing I really like is that with these wings, like you not only see like the kind of bones, but you also see some like veins coming off of them into the membranes themselves. A lot of detail on the body itself, especially the head, the chest, and the tail more than anything else. I mean, this is just an awesome looking model. I am very much looking forward to building this, but at the same time, with all of the recent Daughters of Cain's model that we picked up, I mean, I could see easily, using these wings to kind of convert one of the winged models that came in the Arena of Shadows or Arena of Shades. I can't remember the name of that box set, but kind of making one of them to be the leader or maybe like a named character model of some sort. But these wings are fantastic. A lot of detail on them, a lot more than we usually see on most wings. But with the model itself, I'm not surprised. I mean, just looking at the pictures, you can see a lot of detail there. And then we have our basically 4 tiny page assembly guide, and then has our stats on the back as well in case you don't actually have the codex. Well, we're going to zoom in, take a look at this here in just a sec. But other than that, I just wanted to thank you all for watching as usual. I really do appreciate it. Keep your comments coming in, keep your questions coming in, and I'll do my best to get to all of them. And if you have suggestions for how we can make the show better, other than obviously my cat not knocking over the camera, please share them, because I would be more than happy to, at the very least, entertain those ideas and see if it's something that we can actually implement to make the show much better for you. I know that a recent comment that we actually got was asking for painting up some models and either showing the completed painting jobs or painting them on the show. Definitely something that we're going to look into there. And I mean, maybe we'll end up actually doing one where we're going to be painting this bad guy right here. So all right, so here's the model itself. So as I was saying, like right here you can see like a lot of the kind of veins coming off of the bones or tendons, cartilage, whatever it is. And I mean, just the tail, the head itself, and the body right here, a ton of detail as well. It's a fantastic looking model. Really looking forward to getting this thing built. A lot of things to come. We are going to have another episode this week. Plan to see several other episodes throughout the month as well. And then, if you go over to our actual parent site under nerdcultonline.com, we have plenty of tabletop gaming related articles as well as other types of media. But with the tabletop gaming, you will find some of our recent articles there, including, like with the Black Templars and things like that we've covered not too long ago. And, definitely can expect to see in the near future, articles around Eldritch Omens, Kill Team Knockmend, the Arena of Shades or Shadows, whatever it was called. We're going to have reviews of all 3 of those coming soon. So definitely some things to look out for. But again, as always, thank you all for watching. You have yourselves a great night.